Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to 2022 and welcome to CineMeghan Theaters. I wrote down my notes that it's week 19 because I stopped this last year at week 18, so I figured we'd just continue where we left off. Um, yeah, we're gonna do that. We just finished watching Chicago, which came out in 2002. It was directed by Rob Marshall, and it was based on the musical of the same name, which was by Bob Fosse and Fred Ebb, which the musical was then based on the play of the same name by Maureen Dallas Watkins. Um, yeah, it's also kind of funny, not funny, well, funny, like a I feel weird saying funny because the whole show is about like murder.
Murder.
Yeah. But also the play was based off of the real life trials of uh where's the name? Beulah Annan and Belva Gardner. So Beulah Annan shot her boyfriend in 1924, and her stance at the trial was that they had both reached for the gun. And with Belva Gardner, she had claimed that she didn't remember her husband's murder, and that had also occurred in 1924. Both were acquitted. But yeah, going quickly back to just like some fun facts of Chicago the film, it won 6 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and it was pretty significant because it was the first time that a musical had won Best Picture since Oliver, which was released in 1968. So later on, I kind of want to talk about how that happened and everything. But then going back to like not the musical, not the play, but the real life trials. As I'm watching this movie, I'm immediately like thinking of like when I read that she claimed that they both reached for the gun or like claimed to not have remembered the husband's murder. I was just like, "Oh, like they actually like keep that in the musical movie, you know, 80 years later, 78 years later." And like I'm thinking like with Funny Honey, uh uh, and Cell Block Tango, or They Both Reach for the Gun, where it's just like it's a pretty accurate description of what those real life trials were in 1924. Um, yeah, so I just thought that was funny. For points of discussion that I have for tonight, I've had this debate because I saw this the first time freshman year in college. Did you guys? Well, Amanda, I know you've seen it because we saw the show, like the musical.
Hmm.
Cassie, was this your first time watching it?
Yep. First time.
Oh, wait, first, did you like it?
Yeah, it was good.
Sweet. Yeah, I
I
forgot how
actually
fun this movie was.
I didn't really know much about it. Like I've heard some of the songs, but I didn't really know what it was about.
hmm
So it was definitely interesting. I liked it.
Oh, yeah, I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, I haven't. The first time I saw this movie was freshman year in college, and then I think I saw it like once again sophomore year of college. So it's been like 4 or 5 years since I've seen this movie, but I remember like in college, my roommate and I would have this discussion all the time because we were huge fans of this movie. Do you guys think that this whole movie is in Roxy's head?
So actually in high school,
hmm
I think it was like film classics or whatever it was called. We that's where I was introduced to this film, and he told us that like he like taught us about the movie and like some like stories and stuff behind it. And he said that he truly believes, or either he believes or it was proven that like the music, all the musical numbers are made up in Roxy's head,
hmm
and that's how she's coping with her murdering somebody, because she's always wanted to be somebody, she's always wanted to be something. And so since the whole time period revolves around like jazz and singing and liquor and all that, she just kind of creates this world in her head where everyone sings and dances to help her get through everything.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Especially like the most evident song number, I guess. I mean, they're all pretty like evident in the way even like the editing is. Like they use intercuts a lot throughout the movie to showcase like the musical number and then like the actual scene of like when the events are coming out, like for instance in Cell Block Tango, where like they're just singing and dancing about how they murdered their boyfriends or husbands, but in reality like they're eating lunch at the table, and she's just like, yeah, like he ran into my knife, like just so like nonchalant and not like such a big spectacular dance number in reality because they're in jail. And then also with Roxie, when she talks to the audience, it just like cements that down.
She breaks the fourth wall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw it that way too. Like, I feel like that's just how she, I guess, sees things,
Mm-hmm.
like through music in her head. Because even like the execution of like the other person,
Mm-hmm.
like the way they saw that, and then all of a sudden, rather than her actually seeing the person hanging in like the dance number, she was just gone. Just like her life is gone. Like that's how she was, like, I guess, dealing with it in her head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh,
So
that character I feel so bad for because she's like legit the only person who is like genuinely not guilty.
yeah,
No,
I
it was
know.
really-
It's sad. I'm curious. Okay, so she's the that character speaks I think it's Hungarian, and I had the brilliant idea in college to be like, I'll just put the subtitles on so I could see like what she's saying during her or like her part in Cell Block Tango, and then the subtitles only say like speaks in Hungarian. Again, I'm pretty sure it's Hungarian. It might be another language, but I'm like 98% sure.
I can tell you what she says.
Wait, really?
Yeah, because we had actually looked it up when we were watching it
Mm-hmm.
because we wanted to know what, because like in the Cell Block Tango, their names in the Cell Block Tango represent a part of how they murdered their significant other.
Yeah.
And so when we looked it up, we went to the wiki page, and it tells you like, is the fourth woman Catalina Hunik insists that in stark contrast to the other, she has no involvement in the crime, and she relates her story in Hungarian, so you're right. She says, "What am I doing here? They say my famous lover held down my husband while I chopped off his head, but it's not true. I am innocent. I don't know why Uncle Sam says I did it. I tried to explain."
Oh, you just cut out if you were still talking.
Thanks, Wiki.
Wait, can you repeat that? Because you cut out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You said the last thing we heard was I don't know what Uncle Sam, and then
I'll just start it over. It says,
okay.
"What am I doing here? They say my famous lover held down my husband while I chopped off his head, but it's not true. I am innocent. I don't know why Uncle Sam says I did it. I tried to explain at the police station, but they didn't understand me."
Wow.
Did you hear me that time?
Yeah, no, I did. That's just
Okay.
I'm thinking like that's so sad too, where it's like it's 1920s, like they're probably not gonna have a translator. That's horrible.
Yeah, no, that's honestly why she was hung, was because she was foreign, and that's sad, but that no one understood her, and she couldn't, she only knew not guilty in English, which makes it apparent when throughout the movie, all she ever says in English is not guilty.
Yeah. Jeez. Dang. Um. Yeah. The next thing that I wanted to talk about really quick was how great this movie describes the news as a spectacle at times.
True.
Like, how it's like gore, like the more gory it is, the better it sells. Like that's what people say nowadays. But to think that like even in the 1920s, like things were exaggerated this much to like I guess it just like obviously like it makes like a comment on just like the judicial system to begin with and how it's not perfect. And it's been like that for since the beginning of time. But yeah, I think Chicago does a great job, because I've like seen other movies where like they made this comment where it's like the news is a spectacle. Like if you guys have seen Nightcrawler, which I do recommend, but that movie is like a wild ride. Like you have to buckle in for that one. That it's very violent, but it kind of goes like, you know, that's gore sells. It's a spectacle. Like people want to see certain things that like they normally wouldn't see in real life, or like they would never want to see in real life. But this movie does it differently in that like the way the news is a spectacle is that it's like a legit spectacular musical number for each event that goes on. Like each plot point is a musical number to like to move the movie forward. Like I would argue that maybe like I'm trying to think, like I know definitely Mr. Cellophane, and maybe like nowadays like the first rendition before Velma and Roxie do it together. Like I guess that those are the only two songs that maybe like don't convey a plot but convey more of like an emotion or something of how somebody's feeling. Or I actually also maybe Roxy too. Like still important to the movie, but not necessarily pushing the plot any farther. Um, but yeah, like they're all huge. Like I'm thinking Razzle Dazzle. Like it's the whole courtroom situation, and like even the evidence is thrown into the musical number as a circus act, and like everyone's into it. um,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm also too immediately where Roxy is acquitted. Within 30 seconds, another woman outside of the courthouse murders her husband or boyfriend or I don't know, some random guy outside on the courtroom steps, and everyone's focus shifts onto the next thing that's happening because you know Roxy's not covered, like you know doesn't have blood on her hands anymore. The What's it called? Like not theoretically, figuratively, that's what it's called. She doesn't have blood on her hands figuratively anymore, and so they're immediately going to like who literally has blood on their hands now. Like that's what's gonna sell again. Um, and yeah, I hate when Roxy's just like I hate that scene when she's acquitted, and all she cares about is her stupid photo. And I'm like, are you kidding? Because that's so selfish, in my opinion. But it's also just the character, and she's framed to like not look great in that scene anyway. Like I don't think like any of these characters like people are like, yeah, I want to be like them. Um, but it's still like you know, it's like your anti-hero. You still cheer them on at the end of the day.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, and like even with Cell Block Tango, I'm thinking like, and the costumes with that is just like murder throughout this movie is like showcased as like a glamorous thing, and like it can lead to like fame, which it does in most cases. I mean, like, unfortunately, like, I'm thinking, like, I can name, like, a few serial killers or murderers or court cases just in my lifetime that I've just, like, read about because a lot of people, like, are into, like, true crime and stuff like that, which I'll admit, like, I am as well. But it's, like, it's always just been up for debate. I'm not saying, like, it's right or wrong to enjoy the true crime genre, but it's just, it's an interesting take, I guess, to like see that in a musical where it's so just like full of like the glamour and like the sparkles. Meanwhile, these are like heinous crimes that are being committed. So it's a good juxtaposition that I enjoy through this movie.
Yeah, I think you made a good point before when you said that it's like things that we would never want to see ourselves in life, right? Like we wouldn't want to see someone get murdered right in front of us. Yet we're so intrigued when we hear the news stories of it.
Yeah.
And we follow it and we like search for details, and it's just like it's crazy how that works. Like how
Yeah.
that becomes entertaining. Yet in real life if we witnessed it, it would not be entertaining.
No,
Like it
it
would
would
be
be
traumatic.
horrific. Yeah. Nah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm thinking like, you know, you could do that with like the introduction of television, but even like they did this through newspapers, and like I don't know, even before newspapers, they probably did it through word of mouth. Like it's probably just been a thing of human nature
Yeah.
forever. Like um
Mhm.
yeah. The movie also does a good job does a good job in showing how court cases, I don't know, like obviously this specifically takes place in Chicago, which is located within the United States. Um, Shows how like cases can be controlled kind of with a charm or a charismatic person like trying to convey their point of view. um I've like again like we've all seen the court cases where it's like it's it's just crazy how things like unfold, especially for like such like vicious crimes such as murder. um but I really like the symbolism of the dummies that they have in that song, like literally being controlled by strings and just like charisma and charm.
And it just truly shows that like how much people are manipulated in order to believe everything.
Yeah, no, that's I like that. Yeah, I that's a good word, manipulate for this.
Woo.
Gold star. Um, and then also like going back to how this Chicago is the first musical film to win the Best Picture at the Academy since 1968. I'm like I wrote down in my notes like how is this one different from the like other ones, but it definitely has a different feel. So like I haven't seen Oliver. Have either of you seen Oliver?
No.
Okay, yeah, I have no idea what that movie is about, but it's I'm assuming it is a traditional 1960s age of Hollywood musical. So I'm thinking like Hello Dolly, The Sound of Music. I know Singing in the Rain is the 40s, but like close enough. Where it's like it's I don't know. I'm thinking okay, let's use Sound of Music for like an example where it like takes place in or the songs seem to take place like in like the real world almost where like everyone legit can easily break out into song. Like I'm thinking of The Sound of Music where they're singing do re mi and they're going through the streets of oh Salzburg. I think it's Salzburg or Vienna, one of the two cities. And they're going through the city, and everyone seems to just be going along, even though this entire family is just like belting out songs. But in Chicago, it's like I said before, it's evident that it's not reality, and also like in Roxie, where Roxie breaks the fourth wall, it sets up that kind of a stage image almost, where each of these things are just like a performance on a stage, even though it's in Roxie's head. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I like this a lot better. Like when I watch other things like Sound of Music or whatever, like it's always in my head. Like I don't know, it bothers me that like people can just break out and then it goes back to like normal conversation after like breaking out into a song. And I really appreciated how they transitioned too, because it would like they would show something that was happening in real life. Like for example, the execution again, I'll bring up, and like literally the person would take a step forward, and they'd show it not only in the dance version but also in like real life. And I thought they did a really good job transitioning like between the two, like going back and forth throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, the editing and the framing was really neat how they did that in this
Yeah.
film. Like just yeah, like the intercuts and then the framing of like of setting up the boundaries of the stage within Roxy's head. um yeah, I definitely think that it makes a difference, and I think that's what at the turn of the millennium, the new millennium, I think that's what audiences wanted to see, because also since then you've had Moulin Rouge, The Greatest Showman, dare I say Phantom of the Opera, La La Land, just like well like it's just like I feel like there are more musicals than there were in like the 80s, you know. I can't think of like a single musical in the 80s, but like if you guys know of any, let me know. um so I think yeah, I really do enjoy this movie. And it's also a lot of fun. I love the costumes. I like how extravagant it makes everything.
I'm looking up musicals from the 80s because you know that's just how my brain works. Um And it says musicals of the 1980s. Les Miserables came out in the 1980s.
Are these
Cats.
films or just music, like stage productions?
I'm assuming stage productions.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because
Singing in the Rain
even
came out in
Phantom of
the
the
80s, but it was based in. Then I don't know. I'm on Google.
yeah, no, well, specifically like musical films, because even Phantom of the Opera, I think, came out originally in the '80s in the London Theatre District. I go no, Sweeney Todd's early 2000s as well. But yeah, do you guys want to know a fun fact about $5,000?
Sure.
What the inflation would be today?
Yeah, I looked it up during the movie. But $5,000 in 1920 is now $69,487.
Oh wow. Crazy.
Tyler's excited about that number.
What?
So Tyler's excited about that number. He's like, hey, oh god.
What?
All right, I found movie musicals from the 1980s, but I don't think anyone's gonna have known of them, or at least the three of us haven't.
What's like the top three?
Oh, Little Shop of Horrors came out in 1986. The
Okay.
movie version.
I still haven't seen that. But I know the songs. But yeah, those are all the notes that I had written down for this. Any final words you guys want to maybe add? Final thoughts?
It's crazy to think that this film will be 20 years old this year.
Oh. No.
And I don't know. It's a good film that just tells a story that you didn't know needed to be told about a generational period. And even the stage show is good.
Yeah, I totally forgot to mention with the stage show, it further goes into that claim that's all in Roxie's head, because just the set design, it's only it's like bleachers. I love the set design for the show. I know I've talked to some people, they're like, it's so like bland, it doesn't like make any sense. But I'm like, not. It's just like, I think it's supposed to be like that because it's not happening in real life.
It's minimalistic to enforce the fact that it's all taking place. It's all this grand gesture, but in reality, it's just a ruse.
Yeah, 100%.
But whenever I think of Chicago, though, I always think of us, Megan and I, trying to learn. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, they both, oh yes, they both, oh yes, they both reach for the gun, the gun, the gun, the gun. Oh yes, they both reach for the gun, and how proud we were of each other when we both finally got it.
Oh yeah. Bridget and I, we would sing this like all the time, like my roommate and I, this whole like musical soundtrack. Because I watched it, I was telling Sarah earlier, I watched this one night, like just randomly alone in my dorm. Then the next day I was like, yo, you have to watch this. And so she watched it. And then both her and I, we watched it in the dorm like that Sunday. Like it was like one weekend, and like my roommate and I watched it 3 times. It's like combined. Yeah, great movie. But yeah. Well, I guess if that's any other thoughts.
Thank you, Megan, for bringing this back so we could all watch a movie together and discuss it.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. I had a lot of fun, and I think I'm going to, well, yes, I have decided I'm going to continue this next week. But yeah, thank you guys for joining me, and I'm glad I was able to reintroduce CineMeghan Theaters.
Yay!
But yeah, thanks for joining. I'll see you guys next week.